Good morning and welcome to Legally Speaking with attorney Antoinette Osbourne. This program is for information purposes only. If you need legal advice, you can contact me, Antoinette Osbourne, at 718-502-9137. That's 718-502-9137. The office focuses on divorce, immigration, bankruptcy, real estate, and estate matters. We also do eviction proceedings. There is a second office in Jamaica, West Indies. One second. That focuses on legal representation if you are seeking to buy or sell property, or if you are looking to wrap up an estate. So this morning, I wanted to focus on abandoning the green card. And I should think everyone is able to hear me. If there are any sound issues, Nicola, let me know. All right, so how do you lose this green card? I think if you are able to become a green card holder, one of the most crucial things you should focus on is the rules as to how it is that you can maintain your green card holder status. One of the worst things is, especially for people who have toiled for years in the United States without any form of legal status, and then they lose it. So, if it is that you are a lawful permanent resident, you should focus on how it is that you're going to maintain status and what you should do to ensure that you do not lose your green card. So important. Good morning, Madge. All right. So, how is it that you can lose your green card? You can lose your green card if it is that you have abandoned it, right? So, if you sign the I-407 form where you give up status in the United States, what this form does is you are abandoning your status as a green card holder. This form has to be sent from outside of the country. You can no longer just walk into the embassy except for urgent circumstances where you need immediate proof that you have abandoned the card. But generally, you could sign this form, or, of course, another way to lose your status is if you end up in removal proceedings. So, if you're in removal proceedings and the immigration judge terminates your status, then yes, you will lose your status as a green card holder. So, it's so important that you familiarize yourself with the rules as to how to maintain status and things that will cause you to lose status. One of the things that will interrupt your status as a green card holder is where you're outside of the country for 6 months or more. There is a presumption once you are outside the country for 6 months or more that you have abandoned your green card. So, if it is that you know you need to be outside of the country for an extended period, I'm going to encourage you to apply for permission. And this is done by you applying for a re entry permit. Where you fail to apply for a re entry permit and you are outside the country for 6 months or more, there is a presumption that you have abandoned status, right? And when you are outside of the country for 1 year or more, the Department of Homeland Security, the regulations are such that it requires an invalidation of the green card. So for some people who are outside and you're just a green card holder, you're outside the United States for 1 year or more, what you'll find is in re-entering the country, you're often taken into secondary inspection. And the reason why the officer does this is he's trying to determine whether or not you have abandoned your status. So he will, of course, ask you certain questions. If he feels that you've abandoned the green card, then what he will do is put you in removal proceedings. And now it is that the government has to prove by clear and convincing evidence that you have in fact abandoned the card. So the burden is on the government. And what is crucial about this is nobody cares about your intent, that you never intended to abandon your residence. You have green card holders who were filing for their spouses and they decided that they didn't want to be a part. And it's tough. It's tough where you're married, and because of this whole filing process, as a green card holder, your spouse cannot adjust in the United States. And for some people, what they did in the past, not knowing that this would in fact have harmed them more than it would have benefited them, and they stayed as a green card holder outside the country with their spouse and child whilst they were filing for them. And when it is that they were looking to return because they want to continue the filing process, here it is that they are now placed in deportation proceedings because they were outside the country for a year plus and they have been deemed to abandon the green card. So, unfortunately, they could not prove that they did not abandon the card. So the intent was to stay with your spouse. So when it is time that the priority number becomes available, you're all coming. But unfortunately, by staying out for a year or more, you lose your card. So this is why it's so important that you must know the rules. If you do not know the rules, then forget it. It can more harm you than it is in fact going to do you well. All right, so I have an announcement. So starting the first Sunday in August, starting the first Sunday in August, um, I will be on Future FM, but it's not a legal show. It is a family-based show. So you can tune in the first Sunday. And unfortunately, it is, if you are listening via a radio, it you're not going to get it if you are not in the Bronx or you're not in Westchester. So for those of you who are outside the Bronx and outside Westchester, you can always listen in online. And I believe that there is an app. So the station is 98.9 FM on your dial, and I will be on at 11 a.m. So we're going to be, and the name of the program is Fumi's Village. So it will be a family-based program. It's not going to be a legal program. So we're going to be discussing current topics that affects the family. And when I say family, I speak to the family that I know, which is a traditional family, the nuclear family. So we're just going to be addressing topics that affects us as a family unit. So it's going to be on 98.9 FM on Sundays at 11 a.m. So it will be via the radio, and you can listen in, you can join, and everyone here, of course, is welcome to come in. I will create a Facebook page for it, so to keep you updated as to when we're starting, topics that we are going to be discussing, and of course, it's going to be sponsored by the law office. All right. So let's look at losing the card. It is so, I think for people, they are very nonchalant and they take things lightly. But when it is that you are operating in a manner that is going to, in fact, affect your status, and we have to think of the fact that you're a family unit and what you do affects your family members, right? It's okay if you lose a card and you have an immediate relative, such as a U.S. citizen spouse. If you end up in deportation proceedings, then of course they could look to readjust you. Or if it is you are a parent of a U.S. citizen and you end up in removal proceedings, then that child can look to adjust, refile for you, and you can adjust your status, right? So, if you're like a spouse of a US citizen, or the parent of a US citizen, or a child under 21 of a US citizen, even if you're supposed to lose a card and be placed in removal proceedings, once you have someone who can refile for you and you're eligible to adjust status, I wouldn't be so stressed. The people who should really be stressed are people who, if they lose their card, they have absolutely no one to file for them. And it is, in fact, a travesty of justice for those people when they lose their card. And unfortunately, there's nobody to sponsor them, right? So they end up in removal proceedings. And here we go, they're ordered removed. It gets very serious, where if you're in removal proceedings and you have absolutely no one who can sponsor you, right? Bear with me 1 second. All right. All right. So good morning, Pauline. Happy Sunday to you too. And good morning, Derek. All right. So let's get into this. So you're absent less than a year, right? You're coming in, but you've been out of the country more than 6 years. So this is where the officer at this point is going to be extremely vigilant in questioning you. They're looking to see, where is it that you live, right? So for people who, I think some people will do, by their very traveling, they'll come and they'll stay like for 4 months, right? Makes no sense. They go back to their home country, and when they came to the US after being out for 4 months, they'll probably spend like 2 weeks or a month. They go back home, they stay another 4 months outside of the United States, and they may come back for another 2 weeks, 4 weeks. So for the entire year, they are, in fact, in the United States for 2 months out of the 12 months. And what you have to understand is, when you enter the United States and you're going through immigration, your entire history pops up on that screen. So whether it is your criminal history, and this is why I know for some of my clients who are in fact deportable, I have advised them against traveling. If it is that when they have brought in their disposition, I've reviewed it, and this is a clear aggravated felony and there's no way out for them, I have absolutely advised them against traveling. If they want to travel, then that's on them. Or if it is that it may not be an aggravated felony, but it's just such a crime that it more likely than not, it triggers deportability. So them going to end up in removal proceedings. And unfortunately, they don't have any waivers available to them, or the waiver may be available, but they don't qualify for it. It doesn't make sense. I caution them, do not travel. So who wants to listen and take the information? Fantastic. If it is that you want to do your own thing, then you must have made the necessary arrangements, so that if it is that you're placed in removal proceedings and you're removed, you have already set up your life back in your home country, right? And I always say to people, give yourself the option. Don't close a door. I remember I had a colleague and she didn't like it here. She just was in a position where it was always a struggle. and she wasn't struggling like this in Jamaica, and she had made up her mind. She just wanted to go home. She's going to leave. She's not staying here. She's done. And I said to her, I completely understand, but before you leave, make sure that you get your citizenship, right? And it's something where we have spoken about since she has returned home. And she's like, Antoinette, thank you for telling me this. Because I think right now she's there. I know she wants to come back. So imagine her leaving. And because some people will exist in the moment. And I'm encouraging anyone, be very, very careful of rash decisions. And when I say rash decisions, decisions made so hurriedly, there is no thought process as to the long term consequences of this. It can be a complete disaster for you. And I think people do not think long term often when they are making certain decisions. You want to live in the moment. Living in the moment does not benefit you. A lot of people's lives changed during COVID, right? No one expected the current inflation. This is, to me, it's a worldwide inflation, right? No one expected the inflation that we have had since COVID, and this has seriously impacted people's lives. So, in terms of certain industries are changing, and one thing that COVID did was we were always on the path moving towards technological advancement, but COVID changed the game so much that people now spend, even after COVID, most of their lives are spent online. So a lot of people's jobs have become affected. Let's take another look at this. Laws are changing too. In New York City, you have a lot of stores just closing. I think CVS and Walgreens have the intention that they're just going to move out of New York, because I think when you steal something of value less than $2,000, like, they're not really prosecuting people for this. And the delis are frustrated. People will just go in, they'll steal, like, they'll just take a drink and some chips, and, like, who is the owner gonna call? Who is coming for this? This is like such a low level offense. It's like a waste of time for them. But what the economic impact that this is in fact having, because when these stores close down and they in fact move out, you're looking at the loss of jobs. And even if you do not lose your job, that's a loss in tax revenue as well for the state. These things have a trickle down effect, because when the state loses tax revenue, they're going to look to collect it by some other means. All right. So, just tuning in today, we are in fact focusing on abandoning the green card, right? So you have to look to see whether or not the trips can be deemed as temporary trips. They may not be seen as temporary trips. And this is where now you are at risk of losing the card, right? So, was your trip of a short duration? They look at the number of trips, they look at the duration of the trips, they look to see where is it that you are employed. They look to see if you are maintaining a nexus with the United States. You know, you had a gentleman who would come just summers. That's it. He came 2 months out of the year because he was at home in a different country with his family. So when he came for the 2 months, he would get a job. But guess what? He would live at the employer. So he himself really did not establish a fixed place of abode for himself, right? They look to see, are you in any associations? Are you maintaining credit cards? Do you have a lease? If it is, you are in fact living with a family member, you're coming for a month, you're not really establishing roots, right? So the issue is in trying to determine whether or not you have, in fact, abandoned the card. What roots are you establishing? Is there a lease? Are you paying a mortgage? What bills do you have in the United States? Very crucial. So, if you're just tuning in, welcome. Please do not forget to like the live. Please do not forget to share the live. They look also as to the location of your immediate family members. If it is your children are outside of the United States, your spouse is also living outside of the United States, there is a more probability than not that you're not living in the US, right? You're coming and your trips are for an extended period. The time you're spending more time outside of the United States than you are, in fact, in staying in the United States. It's clear there's no intent to make this your permanent place of abode. So, guess what? You don't need the green card. And this is where you will see the government moving aggressively to take the green card from you, right? The percentage of your stay in the United States is, in fact, extremely crucial. Where are you living? Yeah. And when you travel outside of the country and you're going through your own immigration and customs, where is it that you are saying that you live? What address are you, in fact, putting on these forms? All of this, very important to determine whether or not you are, in fact, living in the United States or you've just abandoned your status as a green card holder, right? So you must have an intention to return to the United States. I have had clients where, honestly, the trips to the United States are such of a short duration that there's no way you are, in fact, living in the United States. And these are the crucial points that they look to decide whether or not you are, in fact, living and whether or not you have abandoned the green card. Do you really need it? And this is where you lose the card, but then you can apply for a visitor's visa because obviously you're not a threat to run off. You had the card, and with the card, you never ever live here. So it is what it is. It's so important. I just want you to know the rules because one of the hardest things is where I've had clients and they say, "Oh, but Antoinette, we don't we did not know the law. Nobody cares." This is not like medicine where you didn't know you can't get away with it. Whether you know the law or not, you will still suffer the consequences when you break the law. You're not going to have knowledge of every single law out there, but it does not mean that if you break it, you're going to be exempt because you were ignorant of its terms. It does not work like that. All right. So let's recap. Have you abandoned your status? They're looking at family ties. Where are your close family members living, right? We want to look at employment. Where are you employed? If it is you're employed outside your home country, then obviously it is clear America is not your place of fixed abode. Of course, you have the exemptions, so people who work for the government, people who are in fact in the military, and for What was just amazing to me, and I think the military does provide their members the opportunity that once you get the green card, you don't even need to wait like the 5 years or the 3 years if you're a spouse and are qualified to apply for citizenship. You get the green card, you go into the military, you can apply for citizenship right away. You are not confined as the regular Joe, right? Military people are, in fact, treated differently. All right, so let's look at your income tax returns and the fact that you file taxes every year, but in fact, your travel history shows you are outside the country. This is not going to save you if you're placed in removal proceedings. It is just one of the factors. It is not the end all, right? Immigration is not operating in a vacuum. So it's a totality of all the factors that they look at, right? Club memberships. Probably have a gym membership, you know, your BJ's, Costco, Sam's Club, things like that. Probably you are part of like a dance group or whatever memberships. You just need to buy your documentation because word of mouth does not hold water in court. Buy your documentation, show that you are in fact residing in the United States. I can't emphasize this enough. Careful how just by your very actions, you are in fact placing your green card in jeopardy, right? All right. So your family ties are important. Where your family is located is important. Where your fiscal obligations are in fact rooted is very important. And another thing that is taken into account is your business affiliations. If it is that most of your business affiliations are outside of the country and you're really operating outside of the country and physically you are outside of the country, more likely than not, you have abandoned the green card, right? Now, if you have a friend and they are in fact a green card holder, and whilst outside the country, their green card expires, or they have lost it, or possibly someone has stolen it, then you can apply for travel permission, of course, having paid the fee, to get that permission to come on board the airline, right? So it is, in fact, an application that is done. You pay the necessary fees online and you go to the embassy and they do their necessary procedure, right? So important. Now, let's look to the child. The child who is under 18. It does not cover you if you are over 18. What happens to those children? You have children here where the parents, possibly they thought they were unruly. And because of that child's behavior, they didn't want to keep them here, right? I have had parents where the child was such a travesty. And this is where, as a parent, you really have to, I don't know. I don't know if you can say set rules and foundations. And this is where the home should be the first place of learning for children. The reason for this is you want to grow your children in a certain way, that their behavior as they grow and they become adults are on a pathway to becoming an upstanding citizen, right? You have to show your children that you have to create leaders and not followers. I find a lot of the children here are followers. Everybody gets influenced, and it's not like they're being influenced to do the right thing. They are being influenced to do certain things. And where it is your children are green card holders, you have to let them know their status in life. You know, I have had people who come to the office and growing up where the other children are US citizens around them, they were not aware as to their status. So when their friends went to steal, they went to steal as well. The good thing is in New York, if you get things done as a juvenile, then it's a youthful offender offense. So for immigration purposes, you don't really have much consequences as long as you were treated as a juvenile. But not every juvenile gets treated as a juvenile, and sometimes you get treated as an adult. You have to tell your children their status. Do not take it for granted that they are going to always be on the right hand side of the law. You have some of your kids, they are selling drugs, crack, cocaine, and whatever other drugs are out there. That is not my world. I do not, I cannot, right? Um, watch your kids, yeah, and make sure that they are so independent of the nonsense that is happening now. I think where society is in such a turmoil. All right. So just tuning in, we are in fact focusing on the green card and whether or not by your very actions you are abandoning your lawful permanent resident status. All right, if the kids are under 18, right? Some kids were just thrown back to their home country. Parent couldn't deal with them, or probably have a spouse didn't like the child and your spouse don't get along, you're trying to save your marriage, you send that child back to their home country. When that child is 18, and what happens? You send the child green card by now is expired, right? Or for some people, they just let the child go back down on the passport and they hold on to the green card. That child, as soon as that child turns 18, that child needs to run to the embassy, right? To basically indicate this is what happened to them. They had no intention, this was outside their control, and they are in fact looking to get back the green card. Once their 18th birthday comes, don't play with it. Let that child go to the embassy, and when they were thrown out by their parent, let that child go to the embassy and look to apply to return to the United States. All right. Now, if it is that you got the green card and whilst that, or should I say, you're being filed for, right? Your parents filed for you. You applied for the green card, right? But after the card has not a card, the visa has been issued. But before the time for you to leave, you give birth. That child should be able to accompany the parent to the United States. Another thing is if the person has come to the United States and they got the green card and they travel outside the country, right? So they just got a green card, they traveled outside the country, right? And they give birth, and that child is under 2 years old. So the mother goes abroad, while she's there, she gives birth, right? And the child is in fact under 2 years old. That child should be able to, when the mom is coming back, right, return with the mother without going through the whole filing process of the child. So these two factors are very important, right? So the child is born after the visa, that's an immigrant visa, has been issued, but the child is born during the validity of the visa. Person whose application has been approved has not left their home country, and they gave birth. Once that child is born, from between the period that visa is issued but before it has been expired. You don't have to put in an application for a green card for the child. That child should be able to travel with the parent, or if that child is born when the recipient of the green card comes to the United States, get the green card, they leave and they go back to their home country or whichever country, right? The child is now born there. The child is under 2 years old. You don't have to apply for a green card for that child. That child should be able to travel with the parent, right? Without the whole need to file for the green card, because the green card holder is returning to the United States as a green card holder, right? And it must be upon the first, you're taking the child with you. That child is under 2 years old, and you're taking the child upon your first return to the United States, right? All right. So immigration and the IRS have an agreement where they share information. So don't believe because you have not presented this, your tax information to immigration, that they don't know. You have to understand it's one federal agency to the next, and they have an agreement to share information. So nothing a secret. Whatever you are looking to hide, it's not a secret. They share information, right? So green card holders, you are taxed like US citizens on your income worldwide. So if any income earned anywhere in the world, not just in the United States, you are required to pay taxes on it, right? All right. Now, the non-resident alien, there is on your citizenship application, and this is the reason for it. Non-resident aliens are only taxed on income within the US. So you're asked whether or not you have elected to claim this status, right? You may just think it's for tax purposes. It goes further, where the question arises when you're looking to claim yourself as a non-resident alien, whether or not you are in fact abandoning the green card. So this is where two brothers are now fact checking each other, right? And you have to be careful with your taxes and make sure whoever is doing your taxes is a proper person, fam. Yeah? All right, let's look at this earned income credit, right? And, often we have mixed households. And for some people, your spouse may not want to file tax with you because you make too much money and you're going to affect their refund. And that's the reality. And a lot of people, unfortunately, face this issue. Hi, June. I guess you're back. I saw you on Facebook with those trips. All right. So I guess for a lot of people with the earned income credit, this can work out to a tidy sum, right? But the problem is to claim this earned income credit, yeah, you must have a social to receive it, right? So if it is you're undocumented, you have a US citizen child, you're filing your taxes, you're not going to get the earned income credit if you don't have a social. And if it is, you are in a mixed household. What do I mean by that? One person has legal status, valid social. The spouse has no legal status, no social. When you file your taxes jointly, that person is not going to get the earned income credit. And this is where a lot of people meet the hurdle where their spouse doesn't want to file with them because they're not going to get these monies. And it becomes very serious because you need this joint tax returns shows if you're doing a marriage-based application, it's a very heavy weighted document going to the bona fideness of your marriage as to whether or not your marriage is bona fide. And I had a client who the client came to me and they were like, well, my tax preparer says that I don't have to file jointly. And I had to say, when your tax preparer is representing you and not me in your immigration application, then she can take over this case. And this is where I warn people about the village lawyers. When the damage has already been done, and you have just so turned the officer's mind where just by your mere documents, he cannot see that this is a bona fide marriage. Get ready for your stokes. And this is not an easy interview. And this is where I warn people about village lawyers. And when people come to me with certain things, I need to know who's your source. Because obviously, who is telling you this is not an attorney. And I really don't have time for it. Right? So it's either you're going to take legal advice or you continue going to the village lawyer. Yeah? All right. So persons who are in the United States for 183 days or more, you're required, and you're working, you're required to file a tax return. Yeah? You fit what is called a substantially present test. You are substantially present in the United States and you're working. You're required to file a tax return. Yeah? And for people who are under the impression that illegal people don't file taxes, I don't know where you get that from. I have had clients who have no papers. When I tell you they are running successful business, getting corporate contracts because the quality of their work is outstanding. They're employing US citizens and they're paying their taxes. It is what it is. So don't think our people have papers. Them are waste, man. And I'll tell you this. You will find for some people, prior to getting their papers, they work harder than when they got their papers. I don't think your green card is a license for you to slack off. I think it should be the gas you needed to accelerate and push even harder. Yeah? One of the most dangerous things is where people find themselves later in life. But then you've wasted a lot of years. And for people who like to work off the books, you see that little social security check? It's so important. The older we get, the more likely we're going to face age discrimination. Nobody's looking to hire you, right? I would have hoped that you have contributed into the social security system. So When you reach, I think it's 67 now. It was 65 and I think it moved to 67. You want to see that check because we don't know the time or hour and we don't know our bodies as to you may get sick. You do not have that ability to work, right? And when it is, I'm going to court. And unless they're doing it because they want to keep active, and I'm seeing attorneys in their high 70s, some 80s, still practicing. And when you see people having to go out, like when I go to the market and I see an elderly person where these should be your better days where you can relax. I spend my money with them first because you really shouldn't be have to be out here struggling like this. Yeah? And that tells me if you are out here selling, this is not a want. This is your need for survival. Yeah? And I don't think when you go to the market, you should be harassing these people because it's not easy. It's not easy for young people to go out and stay in that market. Worse, an older person. No, me patronize them for me. No, me. All right. Earned income credit. You must have a valid social security number. If you have a mixed household where one person has a valid social, you do not. You have that child, you're not gonna get the earned income credits, right? It's not happening. Now, this is tough because a lot of people, that money helps them to maintain their household during the year. Yeah? But you're not getting it. All right. This is a crisis for a lot of people. What am I talking about? Social security benefits. Your social security benefits, where you have contributed into a system for years and then you lose legal status. Hey! Or you have contributed in the system for years, but then you had no legal status. So, a combination of years of contribution and you meet every eligibility requirement, but you can't collect. You don't qualify. So, just tuning in, you're listening to Legally Speaking with attorney Antoinette Osbourne. Please don't forget to like the live. Don't forget to share the live. Good morning, Ronald. Good. Let me see. Ronald says citizenship is a must when you have kids and living in America. I agree. Yeah. You don't know what these baby kids are going to grow up to be. You want the best for them and you hope that they are going to be all they can be. But some of your kids are devils and they're crosses, and they're going to cause you to spend more in legal fees. Your legal fees possibly doesn't go more than probably paying a lawyer. If you're buying a house, you get a little traffic ticket, you had your immigration filing. No. Some of you, your children, are going to cause you to spend your monies on criminal attorneys. Yeah? So when you see your children going a certain way, put down your money. Yeah, this is their legal fund. Someone don't know to pick them. Start create a legal fund for them. Yeah? Because them are going to bleed you with lawyer fees. All right. Ronald says lots of immigrant senior citizens here with no documentation, no benefits, no social security income. You're so right, and we're gonna get into that. Good morning, Audrey. All right, so let's get into you contributing into a social security system. You have absolutely no legal status. So when it's time to collect, you can't get a dollar. You don't have legal status. Social Security shares, they have an agreement. Social Security, so far we discuss how IRS, have an agreement or they share information with immigration. But it's not only the IRS. Social Security has an agreement, with immigration because they need to know your status. And the reason they need to know your status is because they have to be able to determine whether or not you can collect monies you have contributed in the system for years. Because when it is you have no lawful status, you're not getting a dollar. Nobody cares that you contributed 15, 20, 30 years. You have no legal status. So that money can apply to pay benefits for people who are lawfully present in the United States. And this is so crucial because the frustration where you're here for years. And when I say people are here, people here from the 70s, no legal papers. And this just amazes me because you had amnesty. So where were you? Some people, and this is where you have to exercise diligence. They started the first part of the amnesty. In the 80s, amnesty came out. You just had to prove that you were here for a certain time period in the 80s. You got your green card. You had people who probably come for a 6-month stint to work. Amnesty passed, them not go back. And they filed for legal status. But this is the difference of people who are aggressive and they know what they want and they move towards it. If it is that you have the ability and the opportunity to get legal status and you sit down and you do absolutely nothing, people like you amaze me. Where is your growth? It's not like someone who doesn't have the ability to do certain things. You have the ability and you do absolutely nothing. How does that help you? So, if you're here and you've been ordered, removed from the United States, or you went ahead and you abandoned the green card, remember, Social Security has a sharing agreement, sharing information with immigration. So Social Security now knows when you're leaving, when you're outside of the country. And this allows them to determine whether or not they should pay your benefits. They're tracking your travel, right? So, green card holders, you're eligible for Social Security, but then they realize that you're outside of the country. No. What monies? You contributed and you are now eligible for your payment, but Social Security realizes that you are ordered deported. So, because some people are able to return after deportation, you're going to be asked, please bring proof of your lawful status so we can regularize your payments. What payments? You've been ordered deported. You're not on a legal status. You never get permission from the Attorney General to come back and you have papers. That don't apply to you. For the people who were here illegally and then left the country, I think it is so dumb. And I don't know who is guiding people. You are here. What you have to understand is the 3 year and the 10-year bar to the United States does not occur unless you leave. And it amazes me that people are here, ultimately have the ability to adjust, and in frustration, they leave. And it triggers that bar. But what is worse, right? Because depending on the time you're here, you can be subject to a 3 year or a 10-year bar. But what is worse is the permanent bar, where you've been here, you're out of status, you leave, you sneak back in the country, probably after deportation, or just being out of status a year or more, and you sneak back in. Now you're subject to the 20-year bar, 10 years of which you must stay outside the country. And I had a gentleman who came to me, who it is clear by his very travel history is subject to the 20-year bar by returning. And he said to him, but a lawyer told me to come back. What? No, I mean, I believe that. I cannot fathom the wickedness of people where you're going to put someone in a position where it's not possible for them. And I think anyone who is doing something where ultimately you're going to be placing an application in immigration, get proper legal advice first. The worst thing you can do is where you put yourself in a position which never needed to occur. You put yourself in a position where you can't get a benefit. And I am just amazed that this actually happens. People struggle because of wrong information that they have received. They are in positions where they're permanently blocked because of misinformation. And it is heart-wrenching. Heart-wrenching. All right, so deported aliens, you lose your social security benefits. I'm not going to pretty it up for you. You're in your home country and you're counting on the fact that you know by a certain age these benefits should be paid. And you're waiting to receive this money. You're not going to get it. You've been deported. You have no lawful status to get your social security benefits. You must have lawful status. It's so important. Even if you don't want to apply for your citizenship, go get your citizenship. So by them just tracking your travel history, them not to say you're out more than 6 months when you're a green card holder. And this is where your citizenship is important. Because as long as you're not living in a country that they have blocked you from receiving benefits, you will receive your benefits. And when you get older, you need this money. Imagine contributing to the system 10, 15, 20, 30 years and you can't get this money just because you were deported or you abandoned your green card holder status or just live outside the country, just recklessly not caring or not realizing you're going to lose these benefits. It's a travesty of justice. All right. So now you know. Social Security tracks your movement, if you never know before. All right, so if it is that you are outside the country for more than 6 months, unless you're in a country that has an agreement with Social Security, you're not getting these benefits. Watch your travel history, especially when you are eligible to receive these benefits, right? So the exception to this 6 months requirement of you being outside the country for 6 months and it just cuts off your Social Security, how is it that they know? Social Security has an agreement with immigration. They know your travel history. All right. So if, however, These exceptions of being outside the country and for 6 months and losing it, the exception is if you've worked 40 quarters, right? So you've worked 40 quarters before the month that you're supposed to receive your social security benefits. What do I mean by 40 quarters? So it works out to like 10 years. Yeah. Or if it is you have lived in the United States for approximately 10 years or more before applying for the benefit, then the bar to receiving if you're out for more than 6 months does not apply, right? Of course, exceptions once again for people who are in the military. And I would encourage anyone, we have young men here who they're a little bit confused in life. They don't know what they want to do. They're not aiming on a path for self improvement. Let them go and spend 4 years in the military. It's not going to kill them. They get to eat, they get to travel, yeah, all on the US government. It exposes, and I think nothing like traveling exposes someone to new things in life where you wouldn't do or wouldn't receive just sitting in your home country, right? It's so important. I think people should travel. For people who don't have visas to travel to the United States or Canada, travel to some other small island. Just get yourself exposed to other people's their cultures. You must experience certain life experiences. What I think COVID made us appreciate life. But I'll tell you what will cause you to really appreciate life. You see, when people you know and who are around you are dying, not just people you hear on the news, doesn't touch you. You see, people you know, whether it's a classmate, whether it is a family member, and they're just passing away. It makes you appreciate life. Yeah? All right. Now, if it is that you get deported, or your child is still in the United States and your child is has lawful status, the fact that you can't get your social security, that child will get that social security benefit until that child is 18, and I think it doesn't pass 19 years old unless they're still in high school. But at least somebody gets it because you're not getting it. Watch your status. You must have lawful status to get your social security benefits, right? Now, watch the countries. If you are a US citizen who you're traveling to, they will not pay your social security benefits when you're traveling to certain countries. All right, so that's it this Sunday morning. Thanks for joining us. Just a reminder, starting the first Sunday in August, I believe it is in fact August 4th, if my memory serves me right. I am going to be on Future FM. It's not a legal show. It is a family-based show. It is a show that's focused on the type of family I know, which is a traditional family, the nuclear family. You're more than welcome to join in. If you are physically located in the Bronx or Westchester, you will in fact be able to hear it on your radio dial, and it will be Sundays at 11 a.m. If you are not in the Bronx or you're not in Westchester, then you can listen in online at futurefm.com. So the program will be called Fumi's Village, focusing, of course, on life within the African diaspora. If you are not of African descent, you are more than welcome to listen in, but you just must be respectful. You know, say my head not good. You know, say chip. Yes. And it would be a call-in show where we can discuss things to improve our family lives here living in America. Yeah. And we want both the male and the female perspective. All right, so that's starting August 4th on Future FM. Okay, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like the live. Don't forget to share the live. Have a blessed Sunday. Take care.